These fits would pass, but all the same, since he had them, he could not continue in his former occupation, and so the master of ceremonies retired and started living on his savings, which, by his modest reckoning, were enough to last him 15 years. He left and never again met Varenyuka, who has gained universal popularity and affection by his responsiveness and politeness, incredible even among theater administrators. The free pass seekers, for instance, never refer to him otherwise than as Father Benefactor. One can call the variety at any time and always hear in the receiver a soft but sad voice. "May I help you?" And to the request that Varenyuka be called to the phone, the same voice hastens to answer. "At your service." And, oh, how Ivan Savlyevich has suffered from his own politeness. Styopa Likodayev was to talk no more over the phone at the Variety. Immediately after his release from the clinic, where he spent 8 days, Styopa was transferred to Rostov, taking up the position of manager of a large food store. Rumor has it that he has stopped drinking cheap wine altogether and drinks only vodka with blackcurrant buds, which has greatly improved his health. They say he has become taciturn and keeps away from women. The removal of Stepan Bogdanovich from the Variety did not bring Rimsky the joy of which he had been so greedily dreaming over the past several years. After the clinic in Kislovodsk, old as could be, his head wagging, the fine director submitted a request to be dismissed from the Variety. The interesting thing was that this request was brought to the Variety by Rimsky's wife. Gregory Danilevich himself found it beyond his strength to visit, even during the daytime, the building where he had seen the cracked window pane flooded with moonlight and the long arm making its way to the lower latch. Having left the Variety, the fine director took a job with a children's marionette theater in Zamosvaretsky. In this theater he no longer had to run into the much-esteemed Arkady Apollonovich Semplivarov on matters of acoustics. The latter had been promptly transferred to Bryansk and appointed manager of a mushroom cannery. The Muscovites now eat salted and pickled mushrooms and cannot praise them enough, and they rejoice exceedingly over this transfer. Since it is a bygone thing, we may now say that Arkady Apollonovich's relations with acoustics never worked out very well, and as they had been, so they remained, no matter how he tried to improve them. Among persons who have broken with the theater, apart from Arkady Apollonovich, mention should be made of Nikanor Ivanovich Bozoy, though he had been connected with the theater in no other way than by his love for free tickets. Nikanor Ivanovich not only goes to no sort of theater, either paying or free, but even changes countenance at any theatrical conversation. Besides the theater, he has come to hate, not to a lesser but to a still greater degree, the poet Pushkin and the talented actor Sawa Potapovich Korolsov. The latter to such a degree that last year, seeing a black-framed announcement in the newspaper that Sawa Potapovich had suffered a stroke in the full bloom of his career, Nikanor Ivanovich turned so purple that he almost followed after Sawa Potapovich, and bellowed, "Serves him right." Moreover, that same evening Nikanor Ivanovich, in whom the death of the popular actor had evoked a great many painful memories, alone, in the sole company of the full moon shining on Sadovaya, got terribly drunk. And with each drink, the curse line of hateful figures got longer, and in this line were Dunshal, Sergei Gerardovich, and the beautiful Ida Herculanovna, and that red-haired owner of fighting geese, and the candid Konevkin, Nikolai. Well, and what on earth happened to them? Good heavens! Precisely nothing happened to them, or could happen, since they never actually existed, as that affable artiste, the master of ceremonies, never existed, nor the theater itself, nor that old pinchfist of an Aunt Porokovnikova, who kept currency rotting in the cellar, and there certainly were no golden trumpets or impudent cooks. All this Nikanor Ivanovich merely dreamed under the influence of the nasty Koroviev. The only living person to fly into this dream was precisely Sawa Potapovich, the actor, and he got mixed up in it only because he was ingrained in Nikanor Ivanovich's memory owing to his frequent performances on the radio. He existed, but the rest did not. So, maybe Aloisy Mogarch did not exist either? Oh, no. He not only existed, but he exists even now and precisely in the post given up by Rimsky, that is, the post of fine director of the Variety. Coming to his senses about 24 hours after his visit to Woland, on a train somewhere near Vyatka, Aloisy realized that, having for some reason left Moscow in a darkened state of mind, he had forgotten to put on his trousers, but instead had stolen, with an unknown purpose, the completely useless household register of the builder. Paying a colossal sum of money to the conductor, Aloisi acquired from him an old and greasy pair of pants, and in Viatka he turned back. But, alas, he did not find the builder's little house. The decrepit trash had been licked clean away by a fire. But Aloisi was an extremely enterprising man. 2 weeks later he was living in a splendid room on Briasovsky Lane, and a few months later he was sitting in Rimsky's office. And as Rimsky had once suffered because of Styopa, so now Varenyuka was tormented because of Aloisi. Ivan Savelyevich's only dream is that this Aloisi should be removed somewhere out of sight, because, as Varenyuka sometimes whispers in intimate company, he supposedly has never in his life met such scum as this Aloisi, and he supposedly expects anything you like from this Aloisi. However, the administrator is perhaps prejudiced. Aloisi has not been known for any shady business, or for any business at all, unless of course we count his appointing someone else to replace the barman Sokov. For Andrei Fokich died of liver cancer in the clinic of the first MSU some 10 months after Wolin's appearance in Moscow. Yes, several years have passed, and the events truthfully described in this book have healed over and faded from memory. But not for everyone, not for everyone. Each year, with the festal spring full moon, a man of about 30 or 30 odd appears towards evening under the lindens at the Patriarch's ponds. A reddish-haired, green-eyed, modestly dressed man. He is a researcher at the Institute of History and Philosophy, Professor Ivan Nikolaevich Ponyrev. Coming under the lindens, he always sits down on the same bench on which he sat that evening when Berlioz, long forgotten by all, saw the moon breaking to pieces for the last time in his life. Whole now, white at the start of the evening, then gold with a dark horse dragon, it floats over the former poet Ivan Nikolaevich and at the same time stays in place at its height. Ivan Nikolaevich is aware of everything, he knows and understands everything. He knows that as a young man he fell victim to criminal hypnotists and was afterwards treated and cured. But he also knows that there are things he cannot manage. He cannot manage this spring full moon. As soon as it begins to approach, as soon as the luminary that once hung higher than the 2 5-branched candlesticks begins to swell and fill with gold, Ivan Nikolaevich becomes anxious, nervous, he loses appetite and sleep, waiting till the moon ripens. And when the full moon comes, nothing can keep Ivan Nikolaevich at home. Towards evening he goes out and walks to the patriarch's ponds. Sitting on the bench, Ivan Nikolaevich openly talks to himself, smokes, squints now at the moon, now at the memorable turnstile.